Hey, what's up, guys? Tukey here, back again with another episode of my Carolina Hurricanes franchise mode series right here on NHL 19. And today, well, these bunch of jerks begin a new season. The 2024-2025 season is already upon us, and today we look to build upon a conference final appearance. It's still shocking that we made the conference final last year, but we did, ultimately losing to Philadelphia, but we look to build upon that, and hopefully that momentum carries us even further this season. Now, a couple of things to get to before we really get things started here. First and foremost, Piganator pointed this out. When I traded with Anaheim and traded down at the draft, I technically acquired 2 picks, which is not allowed. One of these days, I'll learn to follow my own rules and stop shooting me in the foot. Stop shooting myself in the foot, and I'll stop screwing myself over. Me. Why I wanted to use the word, don't know. It's okay. It's going to be a weird episode. I'm a little bit tired. So we traded that 3rd and 5th along with my 7th for their 7th. So yeah, those picks just don't exist for us anymore. Secondly, I fixed the scouting as well. That needed to be done, which is why we're a couple of days ahead. I needed to sign those scouts. And aside from that, we're going to get right into the team goals for the season. And Kevin had the most thumbs up comment, although I will say, and I'm never one to be like, man, people didn't leave a ton of likes, there weren't a ton of comments. 7 thumbs up, guys? Is it me? Do you just not like Kevin? 7? We can do better than 7, can't we? Am I that bad at what I do? Regardless, Kevin, you had the top comment. Congratulations. Our player goal for the season is going to be centered around Trevor Zegras, who, of course, is stepping up from the 3rd line to the 2nd line, replacing Braden Shen at center. The goal is simple, for him to hit 30 goals or more. Now, last year, he had 28 goals in just 66 games on the 3rd line and on the power play, although he didn't really have that many power play points. So 8 game winning goals, by the way, too. Eat your heart out, Sebastian Aho. But yeah, it should be a very easily accomplished goal for Trevor Zegras. I would hope, if the last year's performance is anything to go off of, he should flourish. He should thrive on the 2nd line. Hopefully he can get it done. Because if he doesn't, we're in a little bit of trouble, because the punishment is that we essentially wouldn't be able to sign any free agents until August 1st next year. It's pretty much what that means. Not to mention, technically, if we wanted to be overly ridiculous about it, it would be, if an RFA goes to free agency, it's out of my control whether or not he signs. If he gets offer sheeted, I'm screwed. So that could be fun. The team goal for the season is much more straightforward, although kind of not really. Make it past the 2nd round. So, I mean, I guess technically it does say make it past the 2nd round. If we fail, we lose the 1st round pick. We'll see, because is it make it 2 or is it make it past the 2nd round? It says both. So I guess it is make it to the 2nd round and then also win in the 2nd round is how that could be interpreted, or it could be interpreted as indecisiveness. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but there is essentially our ability to sign free agents and our 1st round pick being dangled over our heads. So, yeah, no pressure, boys. It's going to be interesting, though, because obviously you have Zegras and Turcotte taking on more important roles. Theo Rocher's moved up. Dylan Peterson's made the team. It's a young team. Of course, with certain guys that we let go of, we could have kept them, maybe gone for a different, big-time free agent signing, but we played it safe with player development. As a result, we have a lot of younger guys in the team, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not they can live up to the hype. If they can't, we do have assets that we can move along. We do have other prospects that we can use to try and go out and get some help for this team. So we're in a pretty damn good spot to already be listed as champions and to have a team that is set up this well. And again, keep in mind, we have prospects that, much like DuPont, that we haven't even signed yet. Nielsen's one of them, of course, 19 years old and approaching a 77. That's not locked in. Smith is down in the AHL, Vahalati, Trey Ladd. So I'm still feeling really, really good. And actually, just to clarify how many draft picks we have in the upcoming drafts, 2/3, 2/4. Obviously, we would have had 3/3 had I not botched that with Anaheim. But still, case in point, assets that can be used. So let's get down to business, shall we? A new season. We started things off with a 12-2 victory over the Columbus Blue Jackets. Preseason, of course, they beat New Jersey 10-1. We know that they're using weaker players. That's obvious. They're probably using terrible goalies. It is the preseason after all. But still, it can be viewed as a massive positive for us to be ripping apart teams in the preseason. It can be viewed as a positive to rip a Pop-Tart in half, apparently. I mean, who's to say? Who's to say? Maybe the Pop-Tart had it coming. We move on. The season begins. High hopes. High hopes. Let's see what happens through the opening month. Of course, we have had some interesting starts to seasons over the past few years, some ridiculous winning streaks, and then things fall apart. So I'm intrigued, and there you go. Case in point, 6-4 win over 6-4 win over Arizona, and then a 6-0 loss to Philadelphia. So it's always tough, and a 9-2 loss to Chicago. Okay, yeah, it is. It's gonna be a weird season. It's always risky to comment on it because you just never know what you're gonna get. Box of chocolates and all. As we have a Norwegian in the top 5, Miles Card. Very, very Norwegian-like name there. Good old Miles. If I Google Miles Norway, what comes up? Dana Miles, Norway Savings Bank. Norway Savings Bank. Which is, I think, Norway Savings Bank. Location and hours. I'm legitimately searching this up. Well, it's in Norway, Maine, which exists. There's a Norway, Maine. I kid you not. It's right next to South Paris. So what comes up for me would be banking options in my state. So that's good. We go 5-3-2, a 5-5 record through the opening month of the season. The Charlotte Checkers have found a little bit more, just a little bit more consistency. Nathan McKinnon leading the way thus far. We're 6 points back in New Jersey. Obviously, it is far too early to be concerned over struggles. Svechnikov still proving to be a much better playmaker, which is insanity to me. Whitfield with 6 points. The second line, only 2 goals for Zegras in 10 games. I'm now a little bit worried. Just a little bit. Turcotte, very slow start, especially defensively. I didn't even notice how bad that second line's been. And to say I'm concerned would be an understatement. The second line off to a slow start, the fourth line off to a slow start. I wonder. I'm not a huge fan of this idea. But just until these guys get some momentum, I'm allowed to move Robertson and Turcotte freely. What if we put Simon Robertson up on the top 6 with Zegras and Nino? And we see what happens. Technically, I can bump up Martin and Peterson or Theo Rocher, but they're both doing well. Or all 3 of them are doing well. So we'll leave that as is. And we'll continue on from there. And my God, the top pairing's been abysmal. Don't know why, but the top pairing has been abysmal. We are going to reunite Bean and Riley. Although I think we've had Bean and Hamilton on the team before. And let's go Byram and Hamilton, Bean and Riley. We'll do it that way. How's the goaltending been? That's unfortunate. So needless to say, if we're going to be successful this season, it is almost solely dependent on Spencer Knight turning it around because he has been horrific thus far. So that's good. Let's go through November and hope that, let's hope that things turn around a little bit. Again, early stages, we're technically 500 on the season, the 2 pity points. It's, the sky is not falling yet, although losing 7-6 in overtime sure makes it feel like it, but we do bounce back with 2 wins in a row. So, case in point, we can't panic over every loss, over every couple of losses, as Gaspard Gugno goes down to injury. The Guggenot, as I prefer to call him. One of the guys, of course, that we acquired via trade, I believe, with Calgary at the draft. Could be misremembering. There's a decent shot that I'm misremembering, but that's okay. Player morale, what's going on? Theo, good performances. You know, you have been good on that third line, buddy. You can always do better. That's true. You've been nailing it, but I think you can do better. There's a lot to be proud of. Good work. Yeah, there we go. Someone who appreciates a goddamn compliment nowadays. Good work. I don't think you really mean that. Negative response. Ben Harper is on waivers, and we could technically take him if we wanted to. But we don't really need... He wouldn't be bad, I guess. I mean, so rarely do you see good players on waivers in this game, which is good because in the past you used to always see like really good players on waivers for no reason whatsoever. It was brutal. But Ben Harper, just in case, we'll put in a claim on Ben Harper. Congratulations, Ottawa. And he'll be down in Charlotte. We might get him into the lineup if need be. Apparently it's going to be a weaker draft, which is fine. Gaspard is back. And we'll look to get him in the lineup, although now we can see how good some of these guys are. So Reese Ray, he was one of our free agent signings, right? I don't remember trading for this guy. Did Nashville let this guy... I didn't trade for him. God, I wish I could see what happened. If this guy was a free agent signing, Nashville done goofed. That's all I'm saying. Marshall Adamski's medium 9, but a 77. Fierro's a medium 9. Lenny... Mario DuPont, of course, the medium elite. We still don't have an exact confirmation on Celios. Of course, we signed Zook. Dreger, medium 9. Tulipov, a medium 6. Kerslake, the Curse Lake. And Cody Berard, of course, low elite, 81. Still listed as a depth forward. He's NHL caliber. It's just whether or not he ends up playing there. So we'll take out Bennett Celios for the Goog. 79 overall, medium top 6, not too bad. And then defensively, the only guy I could really take out there is Steven Johns. We have Petit, DeLuca, Ladd, Vahalati, Johns, and Power. So if there's an injury at least, there is space. And then Theodore Fritzmeyer hasn't been great, but I wouldn't say I regret that waiver claim. That's okay, all things considered. As we move on, and Brett Leeson goes down to a concussion. We've gotten... Okay, you know what? I just screwed us over. We've gotten relatively lucky with... Yep, there it is. I knew it. I can't say it. We've gotten relatively lucky with injuries. There was no way it was going to go well. Whitfield goes down to injury. What I want to look at is how well Robertson's done on the second line. 6 points, not bad. And how Theo's done. 10 points. Still a -7. We're going to go best lines. That's going to bring in Brandon Duhaime. Allen and Kiki's actually an 81. It's not bad. I think we'll still have... Yeah, it puts Robertson up on the top line. Which, let's do that. And then I'll get Alex Turcotte back on the second line where he belongs. I'm okay with that, I think. And defensively, you have Middlestat at an 81. But yeah, that defense... Those two cannot play together, meaning Riley and Hamilton. At least not right now, as we've discovered. So that'll work. Funny enough, on the power play, it puts Dominic Machine there, and Dylan Peterson's there, but I would assume that's due to injury. So it's kind of weird that it doesn't put Bowen Byram on the power play by default. But I guess if we don't fix that and we just leave it as is via best lines, we can at least give him a little bit of credit, we'll say. I'm going to go best lines for Charlotte, and then we'll fix it later on. We can at least, cut Byram a little bit of slack, knowing what the situation is with him. As Whitfield's back to 100%, and we are off the back of an absolutely tremendous month, all things considered. We went from what? 5, 2, and 3, was it? To 16, 6, and 3. It might have been 5, 3, and 2. That's what it would have been. So we go from 5, 3, and 2 to 16, 6, and 3. Not too shabby. That puts us in the second place in the division. It's still close. We have games at hand on New Jersey, but New Jersey's killing it. And speaking of killing it, Dylan Peterson. I don't know what the hell is going on with our third liners putting up points, but damn. Now, an update on Trevor Zegras. Okay. he's a little bit off the pace. He's a little bit off the pace that we need him to be, and it's a little bit scary, but hopefully he can turn it around. Robertson on 11 points. Dylan Peterson, though, is killing it. That third line in general is doing very well. He works very well together with Theo. You could question whether or not we should drop down Turcotte to, say, the third line, where he did really well last year, and then maybe bump up Peterson. Robertson's not doing that badly either. And then, of course, Nino is technically also still a third liner, so we have options. I mean, the question is, though, who plays the fourth line? Is it going to be Robertson, or is it going to be Turcotte? And to be honest, I don't know the answer. Turcotte, 10 points and a -8. Robertson, 11 points and a +5. I feel like it has to be Alex Turcotte down on that left-hand side. I think we might just leave Peterson on the third line, too, because of how well he's doing. Let's go with Robertson, Zegras, and Nino. And again, the options are still there if need be. And Peterson right now is without power play time. That's what I'm talking about, man. We might be able to make certain other changes. How's Machine doing? 7 points with that power play time. Byram with only 4. So I'm still so torn to break up that third line, but why change what isn't broken? But also, if Dylan Peterson's on a higher line, he could absolutely kill it. And I'm kind of wondering how well Zegras would work with Peterson on that second line. And then again, it could be Nino. You know what? We're going to do it. We know that third line works. Let's go with Niederreiter, Zegras, and Peterson. The third line is going to be Matanen, Robertson, and Theo Rocher, with Theo at center. And then it's a waste not to have Turcotte at center. So, I hate to play him on such a low line, because he should be able to do better than he has been. I mean, Robertson has 1 more point, but obviously, and Robertson's listed as a grinder too, to show you how much I guess that matters. So let's make this change. We'll put Turcotte at center, Robertson there, and we're good to go. I don't know if I'm going to change it up in terms of position types, although that would help. That would help. You know what? Jump cut really quickly. Got to change some things around. Alright, so we're back, and obviously visually nothing's changed, but I have changed guys over, like Dylan Peterson's now a right wing. So when we go best lines, it does put Matanen on that, right-hand side, but we're able to make those 2 quick changes, and we're good to go. Obviously, Turcotte's now at center. The one thing that we also have to do, and I've done this already to see how it plays out, the interesting thing, it puts Bowen Byram on the power play now by default instead of Dominic Machine. So I thought that was an interesting one. It also puts Robertson on the second power play unit instead of Nino Niederreiter. Just something to keep in mind as we move forward. But it's tough to change things up when we're being successful, but we're changing things up in order to put Dylan Peterson into a better position because he's doing so well. And of course, we can play people on a higher line than what they're listed as. We just can't play someone on a lower line. So as much as it kind of sucks that so many of our guys are still listed as depth options, that technically allows me to do whatever the hell I want with the lineup, essentially, because we can move Nino anywhere in between the middle 6. I mean, there's all these different things that we can do to change up the lines if something isn't working. We have a little bit more room to maneuver, creativity when it comes to setting these lines. Now, unfortunately, in the immediate aftermath of making these changes, we're not exactly fighting on all cylinders, having lost 4 out of our last 5 games. So that's never something that you want to see. Can we beat Minnesota? Yes, we can. So that 3-game slide comes to an end, but that's pretty rough, of course, to be winning. You make changes to get someone who's performing well into a better situation, and then you start losing. Kind of sucks. We're also still continually dealing with some minor injuries, but we'll deal with it for now. Still a couple of minor injuries. That's not causing any time lost. We win our 20th game of the season against Washington. Follow that up with a loss to Tampa. Just 2 games left this month. We do beat Pittsburgh. Can we beat Los Angeles? as the Kings visit. Nino's back again, but again, it wasn't an injury that caused him to miss time. That'll be an injury that causes Bowen Byram to miss time. An ankle injury. He's going to be out for over a month. So say hello to John Wesley, son of a legend, who will be stepping into this lineup as our depth defenseman. And of course, if he can't cut it, we do have the option to send him down. So let's see. Svechnikov, 8 goals, 19 assists, 27 points in 38 games. Not bad, not amazing. Nathan MacKinnon, 12 goals, 17 assists to 29 points in 38 games. Not bad, but not amazing. He needs to do better, as does Whitfield. 13 goals, but just 22 points in 36 games. That top line, not exactly getting it done right now. The second line, Nino Niederreiter, defensively is still just a mess. 8 goals, 15 assists. So he's on a good pace. A little bit under what he did last year, though. I think that's just the story. Zegras is going to have a rough go. He needs to step it up down the stretch or we're in trouble. And then Dylan Peterson, 27 points in 38 games isn't bad, but I believe he's slowed down a little bit since we took him off the third line. Pekka Matanen, 18 points, the penalty minutes up there. Unfortunately, does he fight? I don't remember if we can see from here. We can't, unfortunately, but a little bit concerning. 5 goals, 17 assists for Theo. Good for the 22 points and a plus 14 was what I wanted to see. And then Robertson, 19 points on the year. Allen up to 16. Turcotte still struggling. And Morgan Geekie, not exactly a gigantic offensive contributor. So, unfortunately, a lot of the youth, guys like Turcotte, guys like Robertson. Robertson's doing a little bit better, but it's not exactly what we were hoping for heading into this season. And it has me wondering if in an effort to bump up the offense, 87 face-offs for Peterson. I think we move Dylan Peterson back to center and we put Trevor Zegras on that top line and just see what he can do. And see if that's the solution. Maybe get him next to Nathan MacKinnon. Ideally, it's not ideal by any stretch to have him next to MacKinnon when we want him to score goals, but he is behind the pace we need him to be on right now, and it might be the way to go. So we're going to change Peterson to a center and Zegras to a right wing. Let me just go best lines because I think those are the only 2 changes that I'll make as we ended up losing to the Kings. So as of January 1st, actually, I'm mistaken. I thought we were only heading into December. We've actually made more progress than I thought. We are in a playoff spot, but again, there are some warning signs that we're not exactly doing as well as we would have hoped. So we'll keep a close eye on this, of course. But again, it'll be Dylan Peterson who gets moved over to center. And that way, when we go best lines, the 4-on-4 lines, everything's a little bit more uniform. People are getting the time that they need. Based off of where they're playing. It should change up the power play lines, or at least very well could affect the power play lines. Time will tell. So again, Zegras will be moved to a right wing spot. So it's tough when, with the goals for the season, the pressure is already on us to do well this year, as it should be. But again, some of these younger guys right now appear to be crumbling under the pressure a little bit of what we're asking them to do. So it'll be interesting here once we get the lines set up, and as we approach deadline day in the next month and a half, 2 months here, what are we going to be looking like? Just where exactly are we going to be? So Nino will go back up to the second line. We'll swap Matanen and Robertson, and from there we're good. And again, same change here. I don't want Dominic Machine on that higher line. So we're going to go with Riley Bean, Middlestat, Hamilton, Machine, and Wesley. Now, it does put Machine back on the power play, which, again, I just don't understand. Well, actually, that time I do understand because, of course, Bowen Byram's hurt. But what we're going to do is go with Bean. We'll put Hamilton there. We have a distinct lack of righties is what we have. So Peterson's a righty, as is MacKinnon. Right. Do we have one more righty? I know we do on defense. But between MacKinnon, Peterson, and then it gets rough. So between McKinnon, Peterson, Hamilton, and I would hate to think John Wesley. So I think what we'll do is we'll go McKinnon. Let's go Peterson there. Riley on that side. I'm going to drop Svechnikov down to the second power play unit so we can get Whitfield and Zegras out there. So then the second unit is going to be Hamilton, Bean, Svechnikov, Niederreiter, and I don't know. I flat out don't know who else I want out there from the top six. Mothinen with the 18 points. It could be any one of them. Maybe go with Theo, just because he's been a little bit more well-rounded, and he's also a center. So we bump up Theo, and that looks okay. I'm not sure if that's any better technically, but it looks okay at the very least. And then the 4 units we'll leave as it is, even though I'd like Zegras to be out there. But we'll see how that goes for now. As we make the change to try and get Zegras going, it seems like any time we put the pressure on a player, granted last year we succeeded, but any time when we're like, oh, well, this guy scored 26 goals, now all you gotta do is score 30, they just seem to shake in their skates like they don't know what to do and they crumble under the pressure, which this team right now is doing. And I'm very tempted to just put the lines back the way they were. Again, it was more an issue, as Bowen Byram's back already, it was more of an issue of just trying to reward someone like Peterson for playing at a higher level. And it's unfortunately shaken the team up in a negative way that really hasn't benefited us. Screw it. The power play can stay the same as it is. And we'll see here. Back-to-back wins. I mean, we're on a little bit of a point streak, and Nathan McKinnon goes down to an injury out until the 22nd of the month. And the unfortunate injuries continue. So the second line is probably going to be 20 points there. Theo at least picking up assists. So the second line is going to be Robertson, Turcotte, and Mottinen, although we'll swap the wings. And that top unit's going to be Svechnikov, Zegras, Whitfield, Niederreiter, Peterson, and Roche. Defense, again, swap those around. We don't want Hamilton and Riley together. So an injury to Nathan McKinnon, who was our featured player last year, if I'm not mistaken, kind of causes some trouble. We do end up beating the Islanders 7-3. More of those results would be great. DeLuca down in Charlotte goes down to a concussion. At least we're not the Jets, who were terrible. They almost beat us, though, and then we do lose to Washington on the back-to-back. We bounce back, though. All right, we're starting to put up points. All the pressure in the world right now on Trevor Zegras, because that is a brutal, brutal punishment to potentially lose our ability to sign big names in this upcoming offseason. Nathan McKinnon is back, and buddy, if we start to suck, it's on you. Zegras is 12 goals short, 48 games played, but he's looking okay. Whitfield 19 goals, Zegras with 18. I'm still going to sacrifice Whitfield this year and play Zegras on the second line. Robertson with 24 points. Theo's looked a little bit better, and then Nino still looked okay. So, again, that will still be the team, and again, make the switch of Bean and Hamilton. And we're good to march forward. Let's keep it going. We still need results here. We get to the totally not the All-Star break portion of the season. 26 wins there for the Checkers as well. Not too bad. We beat the Rangers. Can we beat the Devils in our last game of the month? The answer is yes, 6-2. So a 6? I don't know. A 6-2 win over the Devils is what I was going to say. I lost my train of thought there for a second. We enter the month of February. Of course, just a few weeks out from the deadline with a 29-16-5 record. As far as the playoffs are concerned, we are technically in at the moment, but we're 8 points back of New Jersey, and now Andrei Svechnikov is leading this team in points. Svechnikov looking all right. 12 goals, 29 assists. McKinnon, only 34 points, but in 45 games. Zegras, 18 goals, 12 back with 32 games left. We need a big-time effort from him. Big-time effort from him. He is on that second power play unit. For now, I think we just keep going. And obviously, we'll be ending this episode around the deadline. Once we take a look at the team, we might take a quick look around the league and see what options we have, at least what cheap options we have. It's an earlier deadline day this year. It's on February 26th as opposed to March 1st. So let's see what happens. Obviously, big thing, and again, hate to say it, but can we stay healthy? And will certain teams, certain players on this team be able to step up as we take 3 out of 4 points over our last 2 games before losing to Columbus, which sucks, but that's okay. End up beating Dallas and then losing to Pittsburgh, so the inconsistency, the win-loss is continuing. Although we lose to Nashville, so now we've lost 3 out of our last 4, actually 4 out of our last 5, and now 5 out of our last 6. And we're struggling. At the worst time to struggle, we have 5 games before the deadline. We're at 31 and 27, technically, on the season. Not nearly looking like a team that's going to make it to the second round, let alone the third round. We are still in a playoff spot, but there is now clear separation between us, New Jersey, and Washington as the top 3 teams in the division. And yeah, I'm a little bit worried. So, I mean, Geeky is locked in on the 4th line, 16 points, it's not bad. And then the other guy locked in on the 4th line, Antti Allen, has 21 points. He's been great. Turcotte's the guy who shouldn't be there. He is up to 24 points on the season. Robertson with 32. And it's almost as if we're seeing a little bit too much scoring out of the bottom 6 and not enough out of the top 6. And I think that's our biggest problem right now. Whitfield, it's not good enough for him. 34 points in 56 games, 19 goals. That is not enough. Dylan Peterson has 45 points, though. No complaints about him. And, of course, Nino Niederreiter now up to 35 points. That's okay, but nothing phenomenal. But it's like, would you bump up Theo? I mean, maybe not. You'd have to play Robertson at center on that line. Zegras up to 22 goals, so Zegras is 8 away from where we need him to be. Nathan MacKinnon. I mean, 95 points last year, just 39 points in 53 games. He has not been what we have needed him to be. I still don't know if the right idea, the right move is to keep Zegras there or not. It's either Zegras or Whitfield on that top line. I'm just scared, though, because I need to make sure Zegras is getting points. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm sacrificing our accomplishments this year, but you get the point. Morgan Riley's had an abysmal season. Make no mistake, under contract for 5 more years. He has been brutal, whereas Bowen Byram and Dougie Hamilton have actually been pretty good. Riley's a top 2, though. He has to play on that top unit, which is scary. Maybe putting him with Bowen Byram would be the steady presence that we need him to be. Dominic Machine and Luke Mittelstadt have been pretty solid, all things considered. But I don't know what to do with Morgan Riley. It's really our 2 top players. Riley and McKinnon haven't exactly been what we've needed them to be, and it's heavily affecting this team. So, I mean, we'll see what happens here down the stretch. Spencer Knight has not been the goalie we've needed him to be. Binnington's been a solid backup, but nothing outrageously good. Well, I mean, 924 is pretty damn good. We have a couple more games here before the deadline. Like I said, we still have... We still have what we're dealing... we still have, the cards we were dealt, the hand we were dealt here, to make changes if we need to make changes. But I'm afraid, obviously, losing 7-5 to the Rangers doesn't help. That's a defense and goal scoring issue. And you would think our defense would be relatively good, and Whitfield goes down to a sprained ankle until the beginning of next month. He might be back for the Tampa game, although it did say, of course, March 2nd. So the deadline is indeed almost upon us. We lose to Detroit, and at 33 wins on the year, we are currently out of a playoff spot. Trevor Zegras is going to hit 30 goals. Barring a miracle, he's going to get 3 more goals in 19 games. So that problem is out of the way. But the other problem of wanting to make it to, if not past the second round, to maintain our first round selection, that is very much in danger. And again, depending in here, the first thing we need to look at is special teams, because that's the one thing we haven't looked at thus far this season. Where are we? I mean, obviously we know in the standings we're in 5th in the Metro, but still very much in the playoff mix. Where are we in terms of goals for per game? Okay, so it's not a scoring issue, which isn't surprising. We're a mid-table team. Mid-table, trending slightly, closer to the bottom. But when New Jersey's scoring nearly 4.5 goals a game, that's kind of an issue. Goals against, okay, we're not at an extreme. The Bruins are allowing almost 5 goals a game. We're not at either end of the extreme, but we are mid-table, trending slightly closer to the top, as in fewer goals against. So we're a mid-table team in each regard. Our goaltending has been slightly better than our goal scoring. Our power play is at 25%, which is obviously upward. But what's our penalty kill? This is what has me concerned. We actually don't even have a bottom penalty kill either. We're just fucking average. And our power play's up there, 78.7. That's a top 10 power play. That's insane. So we have a really good, or a penalty kill, I should say. So we have average goal scoring, average goaltending, an average power play, and an above average penalty kill. Yet, right now, if the season were to end, we wouldn't be a playoff team. It's a very weird squad we have this year, don't you think? So, I mean, obviously when it comes to goaltending, it's average because Binnington bumps up that average because Spencer Knight has not been the goaltender that we've needed him to be. And that's the big issue with Knight, is that he hasn't been great. He has been above average at best. And factor in the injury trouble, despite the fact he was good in the playoffs last year, he did miss time. Factor in the injury trouble. I know he's only 23, but we just signed him to an 8-year deal, but he was an RFA, so we still have the freedom to move him. One has to wonder what Spencer Knight's future is on this team. We need to see more out of him. I'm not saying give up on him now, because we're not going to be able to trade for a goalie of his caliber as well without giving up more than what we're giving up. If that makes sense, I don't think it did. Without giving up even more, right? I mean, in terms of like, a goalie the same value as Knight, we'd still have to give up something. But obviously, that's a big concern. And then defensively, Dougie Hamilton's had a damn good season. 41 points, plus 12 on the season. He had 51 points last year, so he's on a pretty damn good pace. Even has a higher shooting percentage this year. Morgan Rielly has 37 points, but from a defensive standpoint, it hasn't been good. Same with Jake Bean, 31 points, but the defense just isn't there. Dominic Machine on the third pairing is a 15 and an even rating. Bowen Byram just 9 points, but a plus 23. So, I mean, Byram and Hamilton's been a very good pairing, but Rielly and Bean has not. So, and again, Hamilton and Rielly can go nowhere. So it's like, well, what do we do here? Do we break up Hamilton and Byram for the sake of trying to get Rielly and Bean going? We know Bean and Hamilton doesn't work. So we'd be looking at, we have really no other options. Because Rielly Hamilton wasn't working. And Rielly and Bean isn't working. And Rielly has to play on the top pairing. And I believe Hamilton-Bean wasn't working, which would mean the only option would be running Hamilton. I mean, really, there is no other option. And then Middlestad's been okay for his rookie year, so I kind of feel stuck there because two crucial members of the top four, including our best defensemen, are underperforming this year, and there's no clear answer. Like, we wouldn't want to trade Byram, so it's like the defenseman that would be on the block is Jake Bean, who does have 31 points this year. But is there a top four defenseman that can replace him out on the market? And obviously, from a forward perspective, the good news is Trevor Zegras is going to hit 30 goals. Svechnikov also up there at 50 points. Peterson with 49. The bad news is Nathan MacKinnon only 44 points on the year. Right after signing him to that fresh new fucking contract where we are locked into having McKinnon here for basically the entire year, the entire duration of that contract, he can't be moved. And he's slumping a little bit. We knew it was a risk, but it's not ideal. And then Whitfield, only 37 points. But again, you see like the well-rounded nature of this team with Geeky at 18 points being the least productive member of the team. Like overall, it's again the top 6 is underperforming and the bottom 6 is overperforming. And it's causing problems with this team to the point where again, I'm not sure what exactly I would look to change. And if we look around the league, of course, the high scoring is up. Oh my fucking God. Holy shit. Yeah, so the high scoring is still in effect. Jack Hughes has 115 points in 62 games. He has 68 goals. Taylor Hall, his line mate's also up there. So other big names aren't having trouble scoring. We know that for a fact. That is absolutely absurd. And the highest scoring pace I've ever seen in this game. Let's take a look quickly. Now, if you don't care to know who's available, and that's fine, hey, let me know what you think we should do with the lineup if you don't think we should make any changes. But let's quickly take a look around the league. And again, more than likely, I'm only going to look at players that are on the block because they're going to be easier to acquire, especially with hard trade difficulty. And again, unfortunately, we know this is a C. Drury. Please be Chris Cole. Damn. None of those guys are really going to be worth it. They're all prospects. Is there anybody out there? Artemi Panarin on an expiring deal, and we had considered getting Panarin before. 18 goals, 29 assists, but an abysmal minus 38, and you saw how bad the Bruins' goaltending was. I mean, a veteran Artemi Panarin would have space on this team, but then the question becomes, which one of those depth forwards do we sit? Robertson, Theo Rocher? It would have to be one of those two that ends up taking a seat. You also have Adam Tamolini. I mean, Ivan Barbashev's been good, but we'd probably... And Barbashev is a fourth liner. Underrated. Not that we'd want to sit, 2 second-line guys, or two depth forwards, but Artemi Panarin for the first line, Barbashev for the fourth line. That could be done. It looks like the Bruins are having a similar issue with some of their fourth liners actually putting up points. And Ryan Spooner ended up back in Boston. But Artemi Panarin is there, and again, goaltending-wise, we're not going to make a change. We're going to stick with Knight. We're just concerned. Endress is a prospect. Calgary shopping prospects. Of course, we're not really in the hunt for prospects. We'd be in the hunt for players to improve this team. Colorado's not shopping or Columbus isn't shopping anybody. Dallas looking to move on from Jamie Benn on an expiring contract. Still a legitimate first liner. So Jamie Benn is out there. Max Pacioretty is out there at 36 as a third liner. Still has 31 points on the year, or 29, excuse me. I thought he had 2 more goals than he did. Radulov's also out there. So, I mean, there are a couple of veterans. Charlie Houdon for the fourth line on an expiring deal. So, there are players, but it's just, does it actually improve the team, I guess, is the question. As Anthony Mantha has 2 years left as a second liner, which is risky. And, of course, he's going to want a big pay upgrade. He's not actually worth that much, though. Ryan O'Reilly has 6 years left. At the Nassau, they have like Tyler Bertuzzi, who could be a rental for us. Obey Kubel. And then defensively, you still don't see many high-value defensemen. Vili Sarjarvi is a depth defenseman. Edmonton, shopping prospects. Florida, Jonathan Huberdeau, but he has 6 years left. JFK, Forsbacher Carlson here, 1 year left. Decent season for him thus far. Matt Duchene has a year left on his deal. Second line guy. So, I mean, that's the thing, right? There are forwards, but it's like, man, who would we even want to bring in? Ryan Murray is a top 6 guy, but again, I think it's just more... Like, if we're going to move for a defenseman, it's going to be another amazing defenseman. Mitch Marner's being shopped by LA. He is outperforming Nathan MacKinnon so far this season. Dylan Gambrell and Jujhar Khaira. Again, still no top-notch defensemen, unless they are showing up as just being completely unscouted. Brendan Gallagher, good year on an expiring deal. Eric Gustafsson, but it's like, do you want to give up a defenseman to bring in Eric Gustafsson as a short-term solution? Especially, too, a rental on the defensive side of things could backfire heavily if we lose our ability to pick up anybody in free agency. So you see the risk right now with even trading anybody. Jared Spurgeon's there. If we make a move and we don't make it to the second round in the playoffs, we're in a pretty bad spot, man. So as much as there are names available and decent players available, I'm thinking it's not worth it. As Pittsburgh's trying to sell the farm, Sidney Crosby, second line center, 34 goals for Kasper Bjorkqvist. You had Kreider up there as well in the battle potato. Phil Kessel, who is currently hurt, so we wouldn't be able to trade for him. San Jose, Anthony Duclair, Jeremy Waugh, Jeremy Roy, call him what you will. I'm intrigued to see what you guys think in the comments as far as, like, hey, should anything be done? And if so, who do we look to target here? But it's not pretty right now as far as our options and the fact that we're even contemplating making changes, because we should be better than this. It shouldn't be a debate as to, oh, well, we might crash and burn and not make the playoffs. That should be a guarantee. But we're going to end it here because I want to not only take some time to think about it myself, but of course I want to hear from you guys. In the next episode, we sim up through the rest of the regular season. And while I'd like to think it's a playoff episode, it could very well end up being a draft episode if certain players continue to underperform. So I'm going to let you guys have your little input. We're going to step back. I will see you guys in the next one. And let me know what you think, too, as far as the goal for the season. What do we look to do? Is it make it to the second round or make it past the second round? What's your interpretation of the rule? I'll see you guys next time out. And let's hope it's a little bit more of a positive, optimistic kind of episode, please.